when that happened, that's when we heard the first scream coming out of the thicket. I mean, it sounded like a person getting hurt, getting killed. It sounded like somebody that was in a lot of pain, to the point where we were going to run back into that thicket trying to find whoever it was. He had his arms straight down at his side like this, and his arms never moved. He had a big bulbous nose like this, and he had a wig on, but his legs didn't move either across the woods. It was some kind of time slip, something like that, where maybe like before all those houses were there, or before they had lights. That's what I looked at Brandon. I said, Brandon, man, I was like, what? I don't know where we're at. I really don't know where we're at. It was only 20, 25 yards away from us. It was very close. It scared the living hell out of me. Yeah, my name is Ben Regney. I've had stuff as far back as I can remember. I've had things happen. And the first thing that I ever really had happen, we had a house. We live out near Pittsburgh, and we had a house that was it was a Victorian house, and it actually had parts in it for the Underground Railroad to like hide slaves in that were fleeing the South. And so it was an old house. It was a cool house. And I remember Christmas Eve one night, I woke up and I thought I was looking at Santa Claus. And I remember this like I remember seeing that thing, and what it ended up being, it was a soldier in a Civil War uniform. Big guy, I could see him, like I could see a big nose, big beard, and he walked down the steps. And supposedly I talked to my mom about that later on, and told her like there was something on the TV. It was about Civil War soldiers. And I said, that's exactly what Santa Claus looked like. And I explained to her all the stuff that I saw that day. And it really freaked her out because I shouldn't have known what that all looked like. I was pretty young. I was really young. So that was the first time I ever had something like that happen to me. And like they used to tell me, like I never got the chance to meet my great grandma, but supposedly she was like a medium, I guess. She could supposedly speak to spirits, and they did that all the time. That was probably pretty rare back then too. She was younger, and back when, that's probably the 40s, I guess. But so I never got to meet her, but just cool things like that. That I don't know if it has anything to do with it or not, but I've had other stuff happen to me, so maybe this did have something to do with this whole event that happened out here. This all started I started going to school at Edinburgh. This is right down the road from where all this stuff happened. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to go to school in Edinburgh, because I knew my uncle lived up there. I'm an outdoorsman. I love hunting and fishing. I knew that I could do it every day that I didn't have class. So that school was a pretty good school for me. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to go up there, be able to go to class, be able to go hunt and fish. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm really into it. So the land where my uncle lives, I was back there. I knew it like the back of my hand. I was back there constantly. I was back there scouting, putting tree stands in, getting to know the lay of the land. And back there, when I was scouting, I started finding different kind of strange things about this place. Even the first time that I walked through there were a bunch of they were stone circles. And I'm talking about, they weren't stones; they were big, kind of like boulders. Each one of them had one of them had 6. The rest of them had 5 big boulders in them. It had to take 2-3 big guys to be able to move these things. I found one in the thicket. I found 5 total. I found one in the thicket way in the back. I found another one over on the corner of the property, and then another one on another corner of the property. And that was the same thing on the other side. It's the corner of the property over on this side, almost all the way out to like kind of where the road was. So what I found out is, I guess this is what they used as markers, like for people's property back when the other people, when people were there a long time ago. That's what they used. So I started looking up at history. I like history, all that kind of stuff, everything to do with the land and all that. Especially stuff with the Civil War and the Revolutionary War and stuff like that. I love that kind of stuff. So when I found out that they had these, this old markers out there. I was like, yeah, maybe something happened back here. And I started reading about it, and a lot of stuff did happen up there during actually both of those wars. With Lake Erie right there were battles on Lake Erie. There were fights in those woods. There was all kinds of stuff that happened in the past up there, which was pretty awesome, man. Especially with what I ended up seeing. So there's a lot of history to this place. So anyway, I started scouting that place in the summertime. So all the leaves and stuff are still on the trees, everything like that. Was walking back through there. Now, this is the first time that I started recognizing something kind of weird back there. It's something I never saw before. Never saw it since then. I was going down the trail, and I started seeing this, like, it looked like gelatin. It was completely clear. And it had, like, there was almost like little black spots in it. Not all of them. Some of them had little black spots in it. First, I thought it might have been like frogs, when frogs put their whenever they put their string of eggs out, it'll kind of look like that whenever it bunches up. But that's always in the water. There was no water here. And when I started to look at it, it definitely wasn't that. I don't know what it was. I didn't want to mess with it too much. It didn't have any smell, and it was right along the trails, right in front of me. Now, whenever I would see this stuff, I don't know if it happened the very first time, but I know the second time I seen it that day, and every time after that, when I would start finding this gelatin stuff, this clear gelatin, it would get quiet in the woods. And it was a really eerie quiet. Now, because like I remember, I'm talking about the summertime. There's birds, there's stuff flying around everywhere. And when you hear nothing in the woods, especially whenever everything was happening like that, usually there's a predator in the woods somewhere. It could be a coyote. It could have been just a predator running through there. But what happened though is every time, and I saw this stuff through the whole time I was there. I probably found that stuff good 20, 25 times. And every time I would get that real eerie silence whenever I would find it. It was goofy whenever, it gives you a feeling on the back of your neck that you're not the only one in there. Like something else is in there that can mess with you. And it's not a good feeling in the woods, man. Anyway, so I would find that every now and then, back when I was scout. So now we're getting into the fall time. And I have actually that clear stuff. I didn't see that for a long time after that. It wasn't until fall started and I started seeing it again. Same type of stuff happened. Now fast forward to that day I found that stuff too. That clear gelatin stuff, the goo. And I saw it going in, but it'll have a little bit more of a roll later on. But I saw it going in, same silence. I didn't really think anything of it because it was, I've seen it a lot of times at that point. It was still weird, but I didn't know what it was. Anyway, I go out to, now I'm with Brandon. Brandon wasn't with me all the time. He didn't, I took him hunting out there. He wasn't somebody who came out scouting with me all the time. He lived up in Erie. So I had him a spot. We built him a tree stand out there. And that's where we were going to put him that day. So I walked him over to his tree stand on that day. And then I walked over to mine. Now I got like a climbing tree stand. It's a portable one. So it's loud. It's kind of tough to get up and down out of the tree. And so, it's not something you want to do. You don't want to keep getting up and down to spook everything in the entire woods out of the way. Anyway, so I get up in this tree and, it was like, I'd say an hour into the hunt. I saw some movement over, there's a thicket over to my right. And I saw some movement over there and I thought it was a deer. And I looked over and and it looked like deer legs. It really did. I mean, I thought I saw some deer legs. So I actually got my bow up, and I'm looking, and I don't see anything. I'm not seeing any movement again. But then I saw a little bit more movement or whatever. Now I'm seeing a movement a little higher up, and then comes out of the thicket. There's a tree, and then the thicket right here. And a guy comes out of the thicket, and he's standing there. Like, at this point, he's behind a tree, okay? The way the tree was right catty-corner to me. You're like, the thicket's right here. Here's the tree. Comes out, and he's behind this tree. He's just standing there behind this tree, not moving yet. So I put my bow away. I didn't want to have a weapon in my hand with a person walking through. So I put my bow away, but this guy's still standing there. Couldn't really see him. He's still in the thicket, basically. So I get my binoculars up, and I can see him through the binoculars. Right out in front of me was this big wet area. It's all wet, mud, just mud everywhere. And I had looked at that beforehand because I wanted to see if there was any tracks or anything in it. It was right in front of my tree stand. So I go over there, and I didn't want anyway. I don't go over there yet. So this guy's standing there. He's right in front of that wet area. And I'm looking in through binoculars, and here he comes walking. Now, when I say he was walking, he wasn't walking, okay? He had his arms straight down at his side like this, and his arms never moved, okay? So it was straight down the side like this. His chest was popped out a little bit, and his head was kind of tucked back. He had a big bulbous nose like this, and he had a wig on with like an old judge wig from I guess like it would be like the 1600s. I would imagine that would be from maybe a little later 1700s. But I could see him perfectly. So he has a shirt on. Yeah, I could see that ruffles on it, like a pirate, and even like his pants were like a beige color, yellow color, and then I could see his socks that were like what is this thing, like tights almost, like he pulled it like you know what I'm saying, like he pulled the tights up there, they're real tight, and that was it. I couldn't see where his feet were, but that would have been down by where the leaf litter and all that was. But his legs didn't move either. His legs didn't move. His arms didn't move. This guy looked like, I'm not joking, man. It looked like a target going like this across the woods. I'm talking now. This guy was only 25 yards ahead of me. It was not far, and I'm looking at him in my binoculars. I'm not talking about like it's not like I could see through him, nothing like that. It looked like an actual person in the woods walking out in front of me, except that he wasn't walking. It was like he was floating across. And when he went out, so he come out from this tree over here by the thicket and come across, and now there was another tree. Now these trees aren't that big. They're not real big like redwood trees. These ain't that big. Just big enough to cover them like sideways. So he comes out, gets behind this other tree, and I'm waiting for him to come out the other side, looking at the binoculars. Nothing. He's not there anymore. Where is this guy at? And at this point, I'm 5 minutes goes by, which felt a lot longer. I ended up calling Brandon. I told him like I just saw something. And I didn't even want to tell him what I saw on the radio because I knew he was going to start screwing with me because he wasn't over there. And he did. He's making fun of me like I seen a minotaur walking out of the woods because it was a person. I told him I saw a deer first. So that's what he's making fun of me when I come over here. And I'm like, I'm over here. Blown away. So I told him what's going on. I said, hey, come over here. If you don't see it, I said, if you don't see any deer, come over here a little bit before dark. I wanted to show him. I said, I got to show you this over here. I wanted to show him where he come through. So I said, come over here a little bit before dark, which normally he would have come over after dark, and he would have got down after it got dark, and then we would have left after that. So he said, all right, he'll come over. And so I couldn't do anything else. Like, I just saw this thing that I couldn't believe. Like, he'd never come back out of that tree. I'm still totally freaked out because I don't know who wouldn't be. But I mean, freaked out enough that I started to get down out of that tree stand, that climbing tree stand, making a big racket. At that point, I just didn't care. I had to go down and see what was going on. And I fully intended this guy to be somewhere. Like, I didn't understand. My mind wasn't making any sense out of what I just saw. The only place he could have been was standing behind that tree still. There's no other place he could have went. There was no other trees in the whole area. It was just a clear opening, kind of. And sure as hell, I went down there, bottom tree, got down, looked at hanging over there. But what I really wanted to see was that muddy area where I was at, where he was at, I meant. Because I knew that I had looked there before, and I knew that there were no tracks. There were no deer tracks. No new deer tracks. I knew there were a couple deer tracks that I knew before, but no new deer tracks, no new tracks at all. And his tracks weren't there either. And I knew that's exactly where he walked. So that was another confirmation of that I just saw something completely unbelievable. Because there's no way that anybody gets through there without leaving footprints there. There's no way. It's very muddy. It was muddy enough that you might even lose a shoe in there. It was muddy. So, yeah, I was blown away. I ended up getting back up in my tree, and the rest of the day goes by. I didn't see nothing else happen. I didn't see any more deer or anything like that. So anyway, it starts to get darker out. And he calls me up on the radio, and he says, "Hey man, I'm gonna come over now." I said, "All right, good." And so he gets down. I get down out of my stand. Another part of this too, which this is one of of everything that happens right now after this. There was my uncle had built a real big tree. It was a tree house. I mean, it's in the middle of the woods. It's probably, I don't know, 40 to 50 yards away from my tree stand where I was at hunting. And he built it for his dad to go rifle hunting and put a heater in there and make it nice and warm and all that for him. But it was big, and it had reflectors on it and all this other stuff on there, and it was close to me. So I just used it. I'm using it as a landmark. I always did use it as a landmark. It's right in the middle of the property. I know exactly where I was at if I know where that is. So Brandon ends up coming over on the quad trail. Trails going all through there too. The quad trails that we walked down. We actually walked down a quad trail in order to get to our spots. So he gets over there, and I'm showing him where the guy come out of. We went over to the thicket. I said, "This guy come out of here. Here's where he was at." He comes out, and he walked over to this tree over here. We're talking. I'm showing him all this stuff, and once he actually came over and he started talking to me, I could tell he finally believed me. He's like, man, he definitely saw something. Because I wasn't going to be like it, and I'm not telling him to, especially I'm not going to get out and ruin an entire hunt just to, do a joke on this guy if he knew that. So he comes over, and he finally knows that I'm being serious about it and showing all this stuff. Well, as I'm showing him, it gets dark. It gets dark out. Now, on that map that I showed you, there's 3 roads. It's Fry Road. I think it's called Sherrod Hill. And then there's another one. I think it's another hill road. But it's a triangle. Okay. And it goes all the way around his property. And actually it goes around a lot of other people's property too. It's a pretty decent size, land, but it's not huge. And it would be different if it was in the summertime with all the leaves on. It gets harder in there to see. But This was in the middle of fall. It gets very cold up there quick. There was no leaves on the trees, and the reason I say that is because we're standing under this pine tree talking about all this stuff, and so I'm ready to go get my tree stand to get out of there, to go, take off my tree stand off the tree and get out of there, and I couldn't find my tree stand, and I didn't understand what. But I mean, we were, like I said, when I saw that guy, he was only 25 to 30 yards away, somewhere in there. I couldn't find my tree stand at all. I couldn't find the tree that it was on, and I couldn't find the trail. When we were standing under this, we were standing under a pine tree, like under one of the big branches of this big pine tree, and it's all leaf litter, and so we're looking for my tree stand, and then we're looking for this quad trail that was right there. Couldn't find either of them. So then we're start to go look for the big stand that's in the middle. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find this huge. I mean, it's the size of a garage, man. I mean, it's a building on top of like 4x or 8x8s or whatever they were. But it's up in the air. I'm talking big set of stairs, reflectors on it, 50 yards away from me. We could not find this house, or the tree house, the tree stand. Could not find it. That's when I started getting a little bit freaked out, because I knew that we didn't go anywhere, and we were standing exactly where this guy come out in the thicket, except now it gets dark. And granted, when it gets dark in the woods, things do change. And if you start panicking in the woods at nighttime, you will get lost. You'll think that you're somewhere that you're really not. And I get that. I wasn't stressed out like that. And on top of that, I knew that land like the back of my hand. I could go back there with my eyes closed and know where I'm at. But not then. We could not find it. So what we ended up doing is we figured, like, if we could find a light, we're just going to walk to any light that we could find. And there's a ton of them. If you like on that map, you can see there's different houses. And all those houses in the back of their house, they all have lights that they put on. And a lot of them have lights that go on all night long. You know what I mean? They're not just motion detector lights. So we figure, well, we just got to find a light, and then we'll walk out. We'll go through their backyard, and we'll get on one of those roads. Because if you get on any of those roads, you can just walk the road back, to my uncle's house. So that was our plan. But we couldn't find any lights. We couldn't find any houses with the light. We should have been able to see his lights. Actually, couldn't find his. Couldn't see the neighbor's lights. Couldn't see his other neighbor's lights. And so we were thinking, like, oh, if they're not right there, they just got to be a little further down. That's only, what are we going to do? We couldn't think of anything else. It was kind of like a situation, like, what do you do here? Everything was so different than it was. So we started walking a little bit, and we kept the thicket to our right. That way we at least knew we were going in a straight line. Because you can get turned around in the woods at night too. Like, you could step over a log and start going the complete opposite direction. That's how people get lost in the woods, if you don't have a compass, because you can't stay in a straight line. You end up going this way. But so we kept that thicket with us to our right. I started seeing when we were walking, I started seeing the goo again. And it was in front of us. And this was the first time that it wasn't actually on a trail in front of us. It was always on a trail. I mean, granted, we were walking on the trail, so I mean, I'm going to see it more on a trail. But I did look in the other place, never found it in the leaf litter. So I find some of this goo again, the clear goo, and there was a lot of it this time, like gelatin. It was like a thick, like more firm gelatin. Is what it was. It was kind of like hard to push through with a stick. It was night, so it was quiet early already, but it was that real weird, eerie quiet, that silence that we felt. And now that one, when that happened, that's when we heard the first scream coming out of the thicket. And it sounded, I mean, it sounded like a person. It sounded like a person getting hurt, getting killed. It sounded like somebody that was in a lot of pain, to the point where we were going to run back into that thicket trying to find whoever it was. But that thicket's we knew that thicket's so thick that it's hard to even walk through. In fact, the only way to get back in through there is through game trails, and you got to get on your hands and knees. But that's where that scream came from. And when we went further now, we didn't, after the first scream, we hear another one, and then we hear another one. So we start walking down a little bit, like down on the side of the thicket, trying to figure out where that's coming from. And then all of a sudden, we heard a loud scream, and it was close. It was the same one. It was the same screams, but I'm talking, it got through that thicket somehow. Whatever it was got through that thicket all the way up close to us. And it went one. It was far back. It was far back in the thicket the first time. But it sounded like a person. It sounded like a woman screaming. And it even sounded like she was screaming a word, and it didn't sound like help, but it sounded like she was screaming language. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't just. There's a lot of animals in the woods, and I've seen a lot of videos too, like a lot of paranormal videos where they'll be filming something that's making a sound in the woods and it's screaming or whatever. But it's an animal. Like I hear right away. That's not. Nah, that's a dying rabbit. You know what I mean? That's something getting attacked. It's a jackrabbit getting attacked. Because I mean, I hunt, so I hunt coyote, and I hunt all that. I hunt everything. So that's how you would call a coyote, and I know exactly how they all sound, and they do sound like people. I don't blame people for not knowing that. Like. Only reason I know that's because I've done it all my life. It's not like they're not trying to trick people when they do that. But this wasn't that though. This wasn't that. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't an animal. It wasn't something dying. And for it to be able to get through that thicket so fast, I can't even think of anything that could do it. Even if it was, let alone something hurt. I can't think of something that could do it that quick anyway. Freaked us out. So we started scooting. We started trying to get away, but we kind of caught ourselves. And the reason we're right where we caught ourselves was on top of this hill. It's where we stopped. Like, hey, we can't start panicking here. But we were on top of this hill, man, and the hill shouldn't have been there. The hill I don't really know how to explain it, but where we were standing at really shouldn't have been how the way it was. That's what really screwed us up. I'm just standing on top of the hill, and the hill goes right down to the creek. Now, we know the creek's down there, and the creek was in the right spot. But that hill, I never, because it's very flat up there. Up by Edinburgh, up in Erie, up there where the Great Lakes are, it's very, very flat. It's like the ocean up there. Like if you come down my way, down like I live near Pittsburgh, it's really hilly. There's hills everywhere, and then further west in PA is the Appalachians. I mean, this is the Appalachians here too. But up there is all flat. So we're standing at the top of this hill that shouldn't have been there. And that's what I looked at Brandon. I said, Brandon, man, I was like, well, I don't know where we're at. I really don't know where we're at. And he's like, what do you mean? Because like I told you, I brought him down there. Like he came down to hunt, but I brought him. Like he's following me. I said, Brandon, I do not know. I don't know where we're at. I said, I really don't. I said, I don't know which way to go from this point. And that's when we started trying to get a plan together, and we started talking about the lights. But that's when I really started noticing, like, how, where we were at, anywhere in there, I started really thinking about it. Like, we should have definitely been able to see these lights. As far as we walked, we should have definitely been on a road somewhere, because as far as we walked was far enough to get on any of those roads, except for the far one. We heard that scream, and that scream was in the thicket that on the other side of that should have been a big farm field with a farm, and you could see the lights. So you could see lights anywhere that you would have went in these places. You should be able to see lights, and we could not find them. I said, I don't know where to go, man. The only thing that I could think of was to follow the creek back up, because I knew that at least that went up to an area where we should be able to see some kind of lights. So that's what we did. We ended up going down by the bottom of that creek. It was probably, man, it must have been 10, 15 minutes later at that point, and we heard another scream. This scream wasn't in the thicket, though, anymore, and it was further up to where I think would have been a field. So I kind of think that it was up by this field at that point. And that was the last time we heard it, and it was further away from us. So whatever it was went from inside the thicket, went through that thicket at us, did what they did, screamed at us right in the, like, closer to us, and then ended up kind of, I mean, it would have been able to see us if it was a person or whatever, where it was at. The last time I heard it, it would have been able to see us over there. Like, we would have been like eyesight of it. So I kind of think whatever it was definitely following us. It got closer the whole time until then. So that was a really eerie feeling. But anyway, so we get back up. We're following the creek, and the creek ends where it should have. And where that creek is, I told you, like, whenever you walk in, there's quad trails. There's, and especially where that creek is, because where the creek is, that's where the quad trail goes over the creek, and it goes, off the one way, and then the other side goes on the other side of the creek, goes off the other way, and then that splits. So there's the 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, really, there would be 5 different trails really meeting up right where that should have been. And I could not find any quad trails there, man. And that was crazy to me, because they should have been all through right where we were at in that little valley. Also, right where that would have been, should have been 50 yards away, should have been the big tree stand again, the big tree house. That would have been walking back towards it, which is kind of my plan. We're walking back all that way. Still no lights, nothing. Couldn't find that tree stand, couldn't find mine. And on top of all that, I put, they're called owl eyes. Yeah, like OWL eyes. And you put them in the tree, and they're real, like, if you shine a flashlight on them, you can see them real bright. They're in the tree. So you could, you mark your spot in the woods like that. I had those in the woods too. I had those kind of all through the woods, going to different spots. And I couldn't find any of those, because I was looking for those the whole time too. Because I'm figuring if I can find any owl eyes, I can get out. I mean, it's going to get me out. Couldn't find not one. Couldn't find any of them. Which, if you know what that is crazy, because, I mean, any light that they catch it when it's dark out, boy, you see them. I mean, right away. Couldn't find any of them. So we keep walking, and we end up coming back up around on this hillside, and we just start talking. I'm talking to him like, Brandon, man, I don't know what the next move is here. What you got any suggestions? I don't know what to do here. I really don't. I'm thinking, honestly, man, like, we might end up having to stay back here in the middle. I'm thinking how absurd it is, because it's in the middle of 3 different roads. Like, it's not that big of a part of land. But I'm thinking, like, well, what am I going to do? I can't get out of the woods right now. So we might literally have to stay in these woods. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And Brandon's like, he's like, hey, Ben. He's pulling my shirt. He's like, look where we're at. We ended up standing. We were standing right under the same pine tree that we started from. And I looked, I put my flashlight up, looked, and flashed it over to where my tree would have been. And there's my stand right there. I looked up, went over to my stand and flashed, and there's the big tree stand right there. Everything's right there. I shined over here. I saw my allies coming right over to my spot. It was 35 yards away from us whenever he seen that. We were standing up under that tree. My tree stand was 35 yards away. The other tree, the tree house was, like 80 yards away from where we were at. It was 50 yards away from my spot. We look over, and there's lights, and you could see all the lights again. I mean, you could see you could see my uncle's lights real easy. You actually could see the lights of that somebody had on in their kitchen. They're like eating dinner or whatever, that's neighbor. So you could actually even see that from where we were standing. So we could see all these lights again. And we walked right out from that point. We walked right out to to the back of his yard, and got out. And the only thing I can think of, man, is that it was some kind of time slip, something like that, where maybe like before all those houses were there, or before they had lights, or a long time ago, because the guy that we saw was in the, like I said, he was dressed like in the maybe like late 1600s, early 1700s. It kind of all made sense with all the stuff that would have happened up there. I think that happened. I think 100% something like that actually happened. I really can't think of any other way to think about it. And that's what that story really was about. The ghost that I saw, like, whenever it was on the show. So they put all this on. They made an episode of all this on These Woods Are Haunted, and on, what is that, the Travel Channel? Yeah. They put it all on the Travel Channel. And I understand they got to make it entertaining, like as quick as they can. And they kind of made it all about the ghost. But the thing is, it wasn't all about that. The ghost, they may try to make the ghost look scary and all that, but in my opinion, it's more eerie whenever you put all that together and you see that it all kind of does go together. If you think about it, if that's what happened. But they cut a lot of stuff out of that, though. But yeah, we were able to get out, and that was that. That was that for that night. I did hunt there after that. Nothing like that ever happened again. It didn't. There was the stuff that happened before that, but nothing crazy like that happened before, except for that one day, man. Something happened, and we got transported to another time in the past or somewhere. There's something that already happened. That's cool.
It was almost like you guys walked through a portal or something.
Yeah,
because it's not a big area, like you said. It's not like you're walking through 10 miles of backwoods.
Right.
Like this area, and you're like, why? What is going on here?
Right. Yeah.
You're like, am I like tripping out? Like what?
I'm telling you, man, that's it. Like it's kind of hard to make heads or tails of what's going on, especially when it's all happening at the same time. And I'm thinking maybe it was something to do with that tree, where that tree was, or something, like, you know what I mean? The pine tree that we were standing under, because it started when we were standing under that tree, and it also ended when we were standing under that tree. The same spot.
Weird.
You know what I mean?
That's why I texted you. I was like, this is, forget the cryptid thing. This is like straight up X-Files, man. Like where it's just weird. I don't want to go the portal route, but it sounds like you like walk through something and everything changed. I've ran across multiple stories where people kind of like you, they've been hunting this area. They walk through something and they're like, things like their environment changed.
Mhm.
Some it's very noticeable. For others, just like this is weird.
Yeah.
Like my truck was only a quarter mile away, but yet there's just woods. And they're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the 3 different screams. Were they all the same?
Yeah. It was the same voice. They weren't all the same scream. It was the same voice that I heard. Real high pitched, like shrill. And it sounded like they were saying something. It sounded like it didn't sound like help, because I'm telling you, man, if somebody was screaming saying help in those woods, I would have ran back through. That's all I'm trying to say. It did sound like that, but it sounded like she was saying something, and I just couldn't make it out. But it definitely wasn't an animal. It was not an animal. That was for sure. I'd never heard. I heard everything in the woods that's around here, and I never heard that. It was within 20, 25 yards of us that last time that it did it. It was in the thicket though. So it was back in the, in the briars and that, and the jaggers. But yeah, it was only 20, 25 yards away from us. It was very close. It scared the living hell out of me. It wasn't like no bass. It was just real shrill. It was like, it actually almost hurt your ears how loud it was. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it was that real high pitched. I couldn't make the sound with my voice. Not even close. But it sounded almost like a whistle, that kind of deal. I can't see anything, or especially anybody, getting through the thicket from the first time I heard the scream to the last. Well, not the last time, but the third time I heard it, whenever it was close to us. For it to go through where that was at, I just don't even see how it was possible. I tracked deer back through there. I've shot deer, so I had to go back into that thicket to go find them. Well, it's not them. I shot one that went back there, and then my buddy shot one too that went back there. But when you go track them back there, I'm telling you, you are on your hands and knees going through like little game trails that the deer or whatever made going through that thicket. Like that's the only way to get through. If you fall over in there, you don't hit the ground. That's how thick it is. It's thick. So when I'm talking 25 yards sounds close, but if it was 25 yards in that thicket, it would take you a long time to get out of there. I can't. So in order for them to go where the first time I heard it to the second time to the third time, I really can't. I can't think about how that could even be possible. Not a person.
You're in an area where you should have been able to see other lights. Yeah. And you didn't see any other lights.
Yep. Yeah. Especially in a couple of those other spots, like where the creek was, where the quad trail should have been at. I should have definitely been able to see lights there. There was a couple. So that's what I'm saying. Like a couple spots where I thought that I knew exactly where I was at. Definitely would have been able to see the lights. And if you see the lights, you're getting out. Because it's somebody's house. Nothing. Couldn't see any of them.
From the time you saw the ghost to the time you found your way back to the tree stand, about how many miles would you say you had covered?
It was a while. I don't know how. It wouldn't have been a whole long way because we weren't going super fast.
Right.
Because we didn't know where we were going. But I mean, we had to at least walk a mile back in there, good mile and a half back through there. I mean, because we were walking around for 2.5 hours, 2 hours. Yeah, but I mean, like I said, we weren't walking quick. It's not like you're walking out on the road, because he was looking towards me to get him out of there and to take him to his spot because, taking him hunting. Not only was I responsible for getting me out, but I was responsible for getting him out. And that's why, because of the amount of time we were back there, that's whenever I kind of like broke down, like, hey, man, I don't know what we can do here. I really don't. Like, what's our next option? We're going to have to wait till it's light out. So that's when, because of the amount of time that we were back there, I was very heavily contemplating that we were going to stay there that night. Like, we're going to have to bed down in the woods here, man. Like, I don't, what are we going to do? Where are we going to walk to? I don't have anywhere to go. So that's what we were going to do. That's what we were going to do until everything changed again.
Tell me more about the thing following you.
Once we got onto the thicket, it was following us the whole time through the thicket. From the first time it screamed, it sounded like it was pretty far back away from us. The second time, it kind of sounded like where I thought there might have been this kind of valley, like gully back in there. And I was thinking maybe that's where it was, because there's a little creek that goes through there that kind of like opens it up a little bit. So I'm thinking like it's the only place that could be. And then probably 10 minutes later was whenever we heard the next one. And that was the one that was close to us. So that whole time probably took 20, 25 minutes to transpire while we were walking past the thicket that way. And you got to understand too, like we had our flashlights, but these weren't like all the flashlights you get now are like, cause they're so nice. They're all bright, real bright flashlights and everything. And I had a real bright flashlight, but it was one of those flashlights that took those 1, 2, 3 batteries that are real expensive. And you can't just get I only had 2 of them. They're little fat things, little fat. That was, if you wanted a good flashlight back then, that's what you had to have. But they died real fast. So not only did that was going on, and we couldn't see any of the lights, but my flashlight died, and I had to use my crappy flashlight that I had, my backup flashlight that we had. So we only had like a decent flashlight and a half. And we're walking back where this thicket's at and literally can't see anything at all. I mean, it was dark. It was dark out that night. I never checked the moon, but it couldn't have been, it had to be close to like a new moon or something, because it was very dark without the flashlights on. It was very dark, and it wasn't raining or anything like that, because the woods were, it was loud walking in the leaves. And that was another thing about that in the thicket. Now the thicket's different. Like the leaves are different in the thicket. So like when you're walking down in there, it really doesn't crunch real loud like it would out, because the leaves are bigger out in like the main part of the woods. But you definitely can hear something going through the thicket if it's a person. And we didn't hear anything back there. We didn't hear anything from the walking part of it. All we heard was the scream. So we heard the scream down there, go up a little further, another scream, and then right by us. And then we heard it again later on, but it was completely out of the thicket at that point and was up on the other side of the hill, kind of over where Brandon was hunting. Brandon was with me at that point, but that's kind of in the part of the woods where it was at. So that thing did come out of the thicket. And I think that it went up to where there was a field up there that goes to another section of woods. And that's where I think it was going up to. But like I said, we didn't know where we were at in the woods at that point.
If you don't hear no footsteps, and it was following you guys, it was clearly interested in you.
Oh, definitely. And really, it was the way that the ghost, when I saw the ghost, it was going from right to left. It was actually headed towards the thicket. That's where it was headed to. So it really actually could have been that too. Because that's where the ghost was. It ended up walking down that way. I mean, I didn't see it come outside that other tree, but I mean, the way that it was walking, if it would have kept walking in a straight direction, it would have hit the thicket.
Pennsylvania alone is like a weird hot spot for just X-Files creature kind of stuff. I mean, the amount of reports and sightings that people like just talked about having. Yeah, it's mind-boggling, man.
It is. I think it's like the third highest amount of like Bigfoot sightings are around here, even like in the tri-state area of right where I'm at, Pittsburgh or PA, West Virginia, and Ohio. There's a lot of stuff there. I actually seen some shows with them on about Bigfoot that was around here. The Erie Bigfoot up there was the one on Presque Isle where it was like went away in a UFO. That was up there. That was that whole the Bigfoot UFO theory that started up in Erie. But yeah, it is. It's like a hot spot. There's a lot of stuff that happened. What was it called? The Whiskey Rebellion happened right here. And anything that was happening down here is like, it was happening up there too. The Whiskey Rebellion was they didn't want to pay the taxes for their moonshine that they were making, and all the Irish people that were coming, the immigrants, and they fought, and that's what they did. Then there was another one that was in West Virginia. The other one where rednecks actually came from. The word redneck comes from a battle that they had down. It was the coal miners versus like the coal company, and they all wore the red bandanas on their necks so they could see who they were. So they didn't shoot their own guys. And they were firing. They fought, firing back at them. So there was a lot of stuff that happened in this whole area. Is stuff like that. Both of those wars, because of Lake Erie, I think it was so important to them up there. And there was a lot of that was the other thing that I found out about that land, is it had a lot of stuff to do with the Indians that were up there. Because if you start thinking about that, there's a couple of things you could probably think of that might have been the thing in the thicket then.
With the first guy I did the interview with, Alan Clark, and his thing, like a lot of his experiences happened like down in Nashville, but his whole thing is like, man, this area of the country, there's just a lot of dark history. And obviously, same for Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what was, when we were watching the other one, there's a lot of steel mills around, a lot of bad stuff happened in those steel mills. A lot of people died in those steel mills. Just like, there's a lot of dark stuff that happened in this whole area. And like you said, it's as old as the history of the country. Like when we first came here, Philadelphia was the first capital. And when there was a lot of fighting right here. This was as far west as we were going to be at that point. So there was a lot of fighting. There was a lot of fighting with the Indians and up in Erie and that with the Iroquois Nation and all that. There was a lot of that kind of stuff up there going on. And it was on that property up there even. Which is why the stones up there were so cool, man, because they weren't meant to be moved. Like that was somebody's property or whatever they put them there for, and they weren't moving. They were big stone circles. I'd never seen anything like that in the woods, but that's what I read that they were. So there's a lot of history and just on his property up there. Really cool.
I don't think people realize we didn't go west to the Mississippi for quite a while once we came here.
Exactly.
Like really?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We hunkered down and
it wasn't until they got I forget what year it was, but the Louisiana Purchase, whenever they started getting all the rest of that land. But yeah, that was all French. They weren't out there either. So there was a lot of stuff when it was like, the front lines, if you want to think about it like that, was kind of cut right through here. Where Pittsburgh was, and it was back then too. But yeah, it was kind of like the front line. It's a lot of fighting, a lot of bad stuff happening. So, when you start looking at the stuff like that, it kind of starts to make you think when you have a night like that in the woods, like what could that have been? It definitely could have had something to do with the Indians that were there before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who knows? My uncle, he built his whole chimney, his big massive chimney on his house out of all stones that he found back behind the house. So who knows about that too? Maybe he took a stone that he shouldn't have took. They obviously were doing something with him if they had, 5 different stone rings back there that he had found.
Oh, bro, come on, man. You don't touch that stuff.
Yeah, so he built a chimney out of them.
Oh, come on, man. Dude, so many accounts are like revolving around like burial mounds and just weird stuff on old native land. What's crazy is I was talking to DA about this. It's like, for example, like land between the lakes, like even that, like when the French fur traders and stuff came here in like the 1600s, the natives were like, yeah, like don't, like, to us, our people, there's something wrong here. There's a dark energy. It's cursed. Don't go near it. And we're like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, so for them to like, we've lived here a long time. Like there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, obviously that we can't explain. And I know a lot of people like you will have these experiences and you're like, look, it doesn't make sense. I don't know what to make of it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. You can only kind of like try and attach bits and pieces together to try and paint a picture. But it was obvious that there was something out there.
Mm-hmm.
That were you terrified at all during that point? Were you genuinely scared?
Dude, yeah, absolutely. I was crapping my pants, man. Don't get me wrong, man. I'm an outdoorsman and stuff. I'm not gonna pretend I wasn't scared out there, because I definitely was. Yeah, I didn't know where I was at. I got something coming through, some otherworldly being coming through the thicket at me. No, man, I ain't that tough. I'm tough. I ain't that tough. And that's one of the things actually that I tell myself is when I start going through, I heard something. If it's something like that, usually if I don't understand what it was in the woods or whatever, you kind of get it, and you tell yourself in your head that there's nothing out there that's going to be able to, kill you out there at that point. There's not if there's a bear, they don't really come into you. They're not going to. There are some around here and all that, but really when you're out there, there's nothing that's going to hurt you. I didn't feel like that, though. I felt like there was something that could have hurt me out there that day. You know what I mean? And I kind of felt that instantly the first time I heard it. Mostly probably because I didn't recognize it, and I should have. It was very weird to me not to be able to recognize something like that. And the way that it sounded, it sounded at first it sounded like somebody was being hurt. That's what it sounded like, screams like that, like somebody was getting hacked up.
What are your thoughts on UFOs, and especially in relation to what your experience is?
Oh, I believe in UFOs 100%. I believe that there's something else, for sure. It's way too big for there not to be, but that could have had something to do with it too. It definitely could have. It could have been technology screwing with us in there. I never saw anything like that. I never had any experiences with UFOs, but and I didn't see anything like that night. But there was something in there that I definitely couldn't explain. That's 100%. If I would have saw lights or something back there, then I would have thought that maybe something like that was going on. But I didn't see anything technology like technology back there at all. You know what I mean? When you can't figure out any way to explain it at all, even whenever you sit here and you're thinking about it and we're talking about it, and how are you supposed to explain it? It's something that I've never heard since then, obviously, and I can't explain it. And that's whenever you start thinking like that, that's whenever stuff starts getting weird. What could that have been? What could that have possibly been that got through the thicket that fast? My
best guess, and this is just based on the amount of stories that I've come across and, research, but maybe a Wendigo. A lot of similar Wendigo accounts, at least that I've come across, talk about hearing babies crying and just weird screaming noises in the woods or mimicking of voices. Yeah. And kind of a similar thing too, where it'll be these disembodied voices that they can't discern where it's coming from, or it sounds like it's coming from all around them. And on top of that, it'll move locations that's beyond, the physics of this world.
Yeah.
I wish I can think of a specific story, but there are many stories that come to mind where guys have been in the woods, especially Pennsylvania, the north area, and they hear, I know one guy had talked about hearing a family member of his whom he was very close with that was dead, had been dead for 20 years, clearly hearing his voice calling to him. And he's saying what, I'm cracked up. And then he hears his mom or something who's also dead over this way. And just stories like that. Or like you were saying, you'd hear a weird noise, but it would be coming. It would move in ways that shouldn't be realistically possible for any physical being. People who do report seeing strange beings usually kind of attribute it to that, especially a lot of native folklore. I shouldn't say native folklore, but native stories specifically talk about beings of that nature that can mimic voices and do those things. I'm not saying it is a Wendigo, but I don't know, man. That
was a lot in common with it. The stuff that you were saying, right with it. Like I said, the woods would get silent. And at that point, the only thing that that's what I said, that there had to be some type of predator or something in the woods when that happened to make everything go quiet. So right away, when I felt that, when everything went silent, I felt like I was being watched right away, right away. It's almost like a sickening feeling, like almost like you get like almost nauseous a little bit. The hair in the back of your neck stands up. Something's just wrong. Something's wrong, but you don't know what it is. Just like any other animal in the woods, just like any other animal instinct, just like when I'm hunting a deer and it senses that you're there and it's looking around and it knows something's up. Doesn't know what it is, but he knows something's there. It's that same type of feeling. I felt like the deer, though. That wasn't a good feeling. With that whole thing that happened, I didn't really feel any type of energy or anything like that. But like I said, I did feel like I was being watched. I felt like I was being followed. It's the same feeling like you do, like when you feel like you're being watched, but it's more eerie because there's nothing around you. It's not like you're in a big group of people and you just don't know which way to look. It's not a good feeling, especially in the dark when you don't know where you're at and you're in the woods, you know.
How did this all turn to you getting contacted for the show?
Oh, that's a good question. That was so. What did I write it on? I think I wrote it. I put it on. What the hell's it called? Reddit. On Reddit, I wrote a story on Reddit about the whole thing, everything that happened on there, and I ended up getting. I got people that were messaging me. It ended up getting like 3,000 likes or something like that. So it went up in the thing. Like the story went up in the queue. So there was a lot of people reading it. And then, so I had people like asking me if they could do like a reading of it on their YouTube show, on their YouTube channels. I said, yeah, that's cool. But then like somebody says that he's a producer for the Travel Channel and he wants to do, that story for a show. And I was like, yeah, right, buddy. I didn't talk to him again until he ended up messaging me. He's like, no, I really am. He gave me his name, like, go ahead and look all this stuff up. And I looked up and it was all legit. I was like, oh man, this guy really is from the Travel Channel. So I went back and I messaged him again. I said, hey man, I'm sorry. There was other people, talking. I thought you were just messing with me though. And that's how that ended up happening. They ended up flying me out to. It was really fast after that. I don't know if they had to, I don't know, be here for some other reason, because the people that were doing it was a company out of London, so they were all English. And they ended up coming over to Philly. They bought me a ticket to go out to fly me out to Philadelphia from here, which isn't a very far flight. But I went out and did that. I think it only took like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we were done. I sat like the guy was there interviewing me right in front of me, and then you sit with like the black screen or whatever behind you, whatever kind of screen that they have behind me, and what they do too is they ask you a lot of the same question a bunch of different times sometimes. So they'll be like, well, how did you feel whenever you heard that first scream? And then you'll say the answer. Okay, well, how did you feel when you heard the first scream? And they want you to say it again, whether you say the same exact thing or not. And they do that. Yeah, and they did that. They did that a few times. It was goofy. And I was telling you, like, they make you look at the ground like real silly. Like, yeah, hold that. And, go look over at the wall.
Oh, production.
They zoom in on you. Man.
It's true. It's what they do. Yeah. I get it. But it's just, when you're like, when you're in it, you're like, oh, what is this?
It's so awkward, man. Oh yeah. Keep it at the floor. like it.
You know why they're asking those? They're hunting for sound bites. Like, oh, like we got to find, like, you should just went there and be like, I saw this ghost. It had tentacles, and he should have been just so over the top. They'd be like, we're bringing him back.
Yeah. See this coming
Forget
from
truth.
the woods. That's exactly what I saw, man.
And there it was, Johnny Depp right there coming out of the woods with him.
Johnny Depp had it on a leash.
Oh my gosh! They're an English production company. When I had looked them up, I didn't realize that. But I didn't know they went over here and did all their filming. Did they have you come to some like shady hotel or something?
It was actually a sound stage, like where they would go do like music.
Oh, whoa!
Yeah, so that's where it was at. It was it was like in one of those rooms with the glass thing there, and like all the deals with the knobs and all that kind of stuff. You know, the sound recording.
That's fancy.
Yeah, it was cool. And then they gave me like $70 and a kick on the ass. Like, all right, see ya.
Wow. You're like, okay, that's cool.
I said, good deal, man. Whatever. I went and used it. I bought one meal in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's about how much things cost.
Yeah. It was a lot of it's like they kind of like latch on to a couple different things like that were a part of the story, and they kind of just talk about those. And honestly, if I would have just thought about it, like what the different things they were talking about, I probably could have told you exactly what was going to be on that show before I even watched it, because I knew what they were focusing on, and they did focus on the ghost, when really the ghost was just like was part of it. It was a big part of it, but it wasn't the whole thing. I think the kind of the crazier part was definitely not knowing where we were, especially whenever, you know, with me, like knowing how I know that land so well. I mean, I was back there so often. I could, like I said, I could do that in a blindfold. I could get out of there. Yeah, so that's why I knew something was going on. It was so strange. It was so strange, so strange. And then especially with you feeling like there's something watching you, something following you. And that thing could have been following me the whole time too. That was just the last time I heard it was up on that hill. But I mean, I didn't hear it from the thicket until that hill. I never heard it move up there. So who knows where that could have ended up too. You know what I mean? It could have been 20 feet away from us again when we walked out of the woods. But I'd never known. Crazy.
Whatever became of your friend?
He lives up in Erie. We went out a couple times after that. We didn't we hung out every now and then up there, but it was really just when I was up there going to school. So I haven't talked to him in a while, actually. I haven't talked to him probably 5 or 6 years at this point. But yeah, he just went back up there. I wish he would have been able to do the show. I really wish he would have been able to do that. But like I said, it was so fast. Whenever he worked at General Electric up there. They have a big GE plant up there in Erie, so he worked for GE, and he just couldn't get off. Like it was like 2 days later, he's like, I can't get off, man. Yeah, I was bummed out though. I really wanted him to be able to go do it. I'm trying to remember if we had I think I did have the face masks. So it had to be right after COVID then.
I think they might have taken a year after you filmed it. I could be wrong though, to release it. Which
It was. Because,
really?
Yeah, I didn't even think that it was going to come out. I remember that. It was a long time until after when it came out. It was season 2, episode 5. It used to be called something different. You remember?
Yeah, that they changed it. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Terror in the Woods or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's what it was. Yeah, it was either, I think it was Terror in the Woods and then turned to These Woods Are Haunted.
Your episode aired March 7th, 2020.
Oh, then definitely before. Yeah, definitely. Because it was a year before it even came out. Yeah, it was a long time. I didn't think that was, in fact, I remember ended up texting that guy. I emailed him back to ask him if it was coming on. It was, I feel like it was something with COVID though, why it didn't come on when it was supposed to come on in the first place. It's goofy. I don't. Well, and you know what would happen too? Because I didn't give them. Well, I mean, I guess they have the story that I wrote on Reddit, but they would have had to have those dudes film the thing after too. Like I would have told the story, and then they would have had to do all the filming and stuff after that.
They
maybe they I guess they could have done it beforehand though.
Probably not. They probably would have done the reenactment after. I'm honestly really surprised they didn't like include you in the not that you had to be in it, but that they weren't like, hey, we're shooting the reenactment. Like, let's make sure details are somewhat accurate.
Oh yeah.
Dude, we're just gonna wing it.
I know. I would have done it if they would have asked me to do the reenactment. I would have did it. I'd have been like, I'm doing it, man. I want to do that for sure.
And now hearing like your whole story, I love how it says a ghostly figure stalks 2 hunters. I'm like, that's not quite what happened. That's not even what happened. That's not exactly accurate.
That's not what happened. It might not even have been the same thing. It might have been a completely different thing than the ghost that I saw.
Yeah, but that sounds better though.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Especially with red eyes and fangs looks better too.
Well, yeah, and in the show, I thought like this thing like was like it had shown it multiple times because you're like, yeah, it's hunting us, you know. Like I just did. We were like looking through the thing and we saw it, and
right. Yeah. No, man, yeah, that was like really dramatized there. Oh man, they tried to make it look scary. Like I said, they shouldn't even have did it because it was better off the first way that it was, like the way that I actually saw it. It made it more eerie, I thought.
Well, if it's just a guy coming out of the wood, like who, what you said, like was float. That's creepy, man.
It was.
That's already really.
It was creepy. I mean, man, I'm telling you, because of how close that he was, and I had a good set of binoculars. I'm talking. I saw the details on this guy. Like I swear to God, I could see his like pores on his nose because he had, and I remember his nose specifically because it was real bulbous. It was like, and it was red. So it was like a red bulbous nose right here. And it was, honestly, man, I swear I could see his pores. That's how clear I could see this guy. So for him not to have been there blew my mind because anybody would have thought that it was just a person. Like, I mean, a weird person walking through the woods in like, you know,
colonial clothing.
Clothes. It'd be a weird guy, but for him not to step out of there, man, it really, really did blow my mind, man. It was crazy. And definitely like when you see somebody walking, you can see their legs moving, you see their arms moving. I'm talking straight down, hit his sides and floating. Come on, Macy. So I got a camp down in West Virginia. It's a hunting camp down in West Virginia. It used to have a landline on it, a telephone, you know, just a landline phone. And how did this go? So one night we were all there. So we were young. I think it was like me and my friends. It was one of the first times we went down there by ourselves. A lot of like, I was maybe 17. We were like all 16 and 15 years old. There was probably like 9, 10 of us that all went down at the same time. So what ends up happening is we get a phone call on the landline and we picked it up. You could hear somebody breathing on there, but they weren't saying anything, but you can hear them. Definitely someone on there. We hang it up, call right back, call it again, pick it up, hear the breathing, you know, nothing like that. Hang it up. Next time my buddy calls, he starts like cussing him out, all this stuff. We're trying to figure out who this is, like thinking like maybe it's our dads or something like that trying to spook us when we're down here because we're, you know, it's the first time a lot of people were down there by ourselves and all that. And the guy did die in there. People saw shadows in there before. Somebody saw a whole full body apparition back there before from after they built the thing on the back, another room on the back of the camp. But that's all beside the point. So I'm just saying there's stuff that happened there. That's a whole nother story unto itself. Crazy. Anyway, the phone starts ringing and no one on there. So we couldn't figure out who it was. We called our dads. They all said that they were messing with us. And we did believe them. We ended up calling the operator. The operator said that they had to call back 3 times. Okay. So every time we were hanging the phone up, it would start ringing again. So it's like, okay, that shouldn't be a problem. And so that's what happened. Put the phone down, it rang right away. Put it down again, it rang again right away. And then we hung up again. And Bryson, my buddy, he was standing right next to me the whole time. His cell phone rang. Now, you got to remember, like we were just talking about the T9 phones. Like this is back then. So this is back like in 2004 Nokia phones. There's hardly any service there today. So there was no service there then. Anyways, it was a private call on his phone. Picks it up, same breathing thing, hangs it up. When he said like he was cussing at it and that. But then he hangs it up. As soon as he hits that button, the hang up button, my phone rang. Same thing, man. I picked it up. I hit the end button. Now there was a love seat, and then a full couch in the living room. What ended up happening was I hit the end button. The next person that was sitting in line, I'm talking about in order, his phone rang, and it was the private number. He hit end. The next guy in line did that all the way down through to the last guy in order on everybody's cell phone all the way down, private number. Same breathing, everything. In order. There were 2 people that weren't there at the time. And like I said, we were trying to figure out anything that we could to figure out, like who this was. Like, there's got to be a way to explain this. We just couldn't figure it out. But anyway, they're both named Joe. So Joe and Joe comes back. They're on the porch. We wouldn't let them inside. We're like, it was you guys. And there's no doubt about it. It was 100% you. They didn't know what we were talking about. All this. So we end up opening the door. And when we opened the door, both of their cell phones rang at the same time. Both private numbers. It was such a crazy thing. Both private numbers. And when they were both ringing, neither of them answered yet. The porch light right above them exploded above them, rained glass down onto the right under them, on the porch outside. And we were all just like, I can't, what just happened right now? So what ended up, so we were going to leave, but everybody had been drinking and stuff. But everybody was so afraid, nobody wanted to go to sleep. So everybody ended up sleeping in the living room. All these dudes, all these high school dudes sleeping in the same freaking room because everybody was afraid. It was just me and Bryson still awake, and we're in the kitchen in there. And we heard a cell phone ringing, and it was right at 3:00 in the morning. We hear a cell phone ringing, and we try to go find everybody else is sleeping. And our buddy Mando, it was his phone. It was in his pocket. So we're trying to get it out without waking him up. And this was the first time, though, that every other time that number called, everybody answered the phone. So this was the first time that no one answered it because we just couldn't get to it in time. And there was a voicemail. And we listened to it. So we woke Mando up. We said, dude, we got to listen to this voicemail. And when we listened to it, it was like, this is what it sounded like. It sounded like like that on the cell phone. Freaked us out, man. We had no idea what that was. So when we're listening to this thing, while we're listening to it, there was it was a blue light. Like it was like if a transformer blew up. Okay, so like if it was that big like blue electric light. The whole outside, the whole outside down there was all lit up. The only thing is that it couldn't have been where our camp is. There's nobody around. There's no other camps. There's nothing. I mean, you're in the mountains. There's nothing around you at all. And we do have electric, but it would have went out if that was what that was. And it wasn't. But it was just like that. And it was an explosion. It shook the house. The whole house, or it was a trailer. But the whole trailer shook when that happened. And I was looking out the window in the kitchen and I could actually see everything down through all through the yard, everything. It was so bright. And
man, that gave me chills.
Oh, brother.
Wow.
It was insane. And then it ended up happening one more time, right after that. And it sounds like, it sounds like electricity, like that outside. And then after that, everything stopped. We didn't get any more phone calls or anything like that. That was it. But man, I'll tell you what, I have no idea what happened that night. But whenever you're talking about UFO type stuff, that's kind of what I was thinking.
That's wild.
Is that
man.
a crazy one?
When was this?
That would have been probably 2003 or 2. Yeah, like 2000.
Oh, that's right. Because you said the T9 phones. That's right. What about your ghost experience?
That was, I think, 2008, 2009.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah, 2008. Yeah, because that's when I was going to Edinburgh. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was crazy down there, man. There's all kinds. That place is nuts. That place is definitely haunted. The camp. That guy down there, he died. He drank himself to death. He would get, well, his 6-pack. He would have the guy Jim Ash. He'd have him go get a 6-pack down at the store once a week. But a 6-pack was six half gallons of Old Crow whiskey. He drank all day long, and then his liver ended up giving out, and he actually died in the camp, in the back of the camp. He loved it there, but I guess his daughter was supposed to cremate him. He wanted her to cremate him. He wanted half of his ashes to be spread in the camp. That was his house, so half of it at his house, and half somewhere else. And then he wanted her to put up an archway that said like "Finally Home" or something on it at the bottom of where the driveway is for him. But she didn't do it. She didn't do any of it. And I think because of that, he hasn't been able to get out of there. And honestly, man, it's never been. There's a lot of crazy stuff that's happened. We've seen stuff, but it almost like kind of didn't feel. It doesn't feel evil there. You know what I'm saying? Like this stuff happens, but that was a different story though. Whenever the cell phones happened, that was something that was different. I don't know what that was.
Reminds me of, have you ever seen the Mothman prophecies?
Yes.
John.
Oh,
but obviously,
I thought about that.
Yeah, dude, that I wouldn't say the movie's scary, but like particular scenes of that movie, I just thinking about it, like that scene, like when he's in the hotel and it calls him.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that creeps me out.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? And we were down there in West Virginia too. I actually wasn't all that far away from where Point Pleasant is either.
Where was it? You said this camp was up in the mountains, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Down in West Virginia. Yeah.
Is it like just a hunting camp or what? Anything special about it?
Yeah. I mean, it's in the middle. It is a hunting camp, but it's nice though. I mean, it's a trailer we built. We have like a butcher shop on it that we put on the side of it, and another bedroom for, that's for all the hunting stuff. We do all of it, our own deer and all that. But yes, it's nice, man. We got satellite TV down there. We got big fire pit, big giant yard, air conditioning, heat. You're comfortable down there, man. We cook big giant spreads of food. Oh, it's fun, man. You're not going down there and like you're not roughing it down there by any means, man. Well, thanks for having me on. If anybody has any questions about anything or wants to know anything more, you can email me. Just my name, benjaminregney@gmail.com. I don't really go on Facebook. I'll check it. I'm on there. But if anybody has any questions about anything like that, let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you.